What's going on, everybody? Today in this video I'm going to be doing my 100-mile maintenance on my 2021 Honda Foreman 520. So I'm pretty much going to be draining and replacing the oil and oil filter, and I'll probably clean the air filter while I'm here. I might as well order a new one though soon. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible, but the first thing I'm going to do is start it and let it run, and I'm probably going to ride it for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to bring it back in and let it sit for about 10 minutes. That way all that oil drains back to the bottom, and then I'll be able to get started. But I do think I went over a little bit. I'm at 110 miles. I think I had to use it this week. That's the only reason why. I was waiting for the weekend. Yeah, 110 miles. It's okay to go a little over. It's not going to hurt it. But I'm going to ride this thing for about 10 minutes and I'll bring it back in. Alrighty, I took it for a ride, so now I'm gonna turn it off and I'm gonna let that engine cool down. But in the meantime, I think I have to take these covers off, so I'm gonna work on getting these off. I think that's one piece, so I'm gonna try to do that. I do have to take the seat off, which that's easy. You just reach under there, lift up, and that comes off. And I'm gonna close this garage door because it's 155 degrees outside, it feels like, so I do need to get some more light in here, so let me do that. Well, I guess I'll have to suffer. I'll just leave the garage door open, that way there's plenty of light. But let me see how this comes off. I have not taken this off before. I think it pops off. Yeah. Okay, now that was easy. From this other side and do it. Oh, you ain't gotta tug too hard. Just enough where those rivets will come out. Okay. Should be ready to lift up. Is there one more? Nope. Just snagged up. There we go. Alright, I'm going to be very careful with that. I don't want to tear up my camo. So I'm going to set that over here, out of the way. Okay, great. I do need to go grab an oil drain pan, so let me go do that. Alright, I got my drain pan under there. So you really don't need too many tools for this. You're going to need a 17mm socket for your oil drain bolt, and you're going to need an 8mm socket or wrench for your oil filter cover bolts. You're going to need a nice oil rag in case you get any oil on your fingers, and I might want to grab another one, like an old dirty rag, to put under the oil filter cover. That way none drips all over the place. And you'll want to look over your manual. I do want to see how much it takes. Okay, so it takes 3.2 US quarts. I do have 3 quarts, I believe. This is just normal conventional, I believe, but when I hit 500 miles or so, maybe even 1,000, I'm going to switch to synthetic and leave it with synthetic for the rest of its life. But I was talking to some of the people at the Honda dealership, and they said this stuff is just fine. This is what it's designed off of, but I will go to synthetic eventually. And I'm going to come over here to this dipstick. I'm going to clean off the surface real good, anything above or below it. I'm going to clean it off real good. That's a pretty engine. Okay, I'm just going to loosen this up to where it's just sitting there, not threaded in. I'll put this in my pocket, keep it close to me. So to remove our oil drain bolt, we're gonna have to get under the machine with our 17mm ratchet, or socket rather. I do have an aftermarket aluminum skid plate, so that's gonna be a little different than y'all's probably. But I think it's this hole right here, right in the middle. Yep. We'll make sure you're on that bolt real good and just loosen it. That oil is gonna be hot. I don't have a glove, but I'm just gonna have to get burned. unless I can catch it before. Make sure your washer's on there. Ah, dang it. It's so far up there, I couldn't get away with it. That's okay, that's what this rag is for. It'll be all good. We're gonna let that drain. I'm gonna let it drain until there's no more oil coming out of it. I do recommend having something to put your bolts in. I'm gonna try to find something clean, like this. That way you can kind of keep up with everything. Make sure it does have a washer. You don't want to double stack washers. You don't want to lose it in your oil. Make sure it's there. Cleaning it up real good. I'm gonna put it in here and set that up here away from it. So while that's draining, I'm gonna go grab another rag, and this is where your oil filter cover is. So I'm gonna place some rags under that because there's gonna be a good bit of oil coming out of there. But we're gonna have to remove these 3 8mm bolts. Not hard at all. That's not a problem at all. That's very, very easy. But I'm gonna go grab another rag real quick. So I'm gonna put these old rags here under the cover here. I keep old rags like this, that way for, you know, jobs like this, because they're already on the verge of getting thrown away, but they're definitely getting thrown away after this. I do have my new oil filter right here. So I need to go grab my 8mm socket and ratchet. All right, so I'm just gonna loosen these one at a time. Once they're all loosened, you can take them off. They're probably all the same size bolt, but I'm gonna lay them out before I know for sure. So that's the top left one. I'm gonna set that at the top left. That's the top right. Yeah, I'm gonna bet that they're all the same size. And that's the bottom one. So they're all the same size, so I'm just gonna throw them in the container right there. Okay, so this is gonna have a little bit of pressure, not pressure, but it's sealed real good with that O-ring. So we're gonna pull it just a little bit, and that oil's gonna come out. Wow. That's a lot of oil, mate. Okay, I'm gonna set that cover right there. Maybe I can set it on top. Yep, right there, perfect. Okay. There's gonna be a spring behind this. We're gonna grab that spring, get all that oil out of that filter so I can set it aside. Set it aside. So with my clean rag here, I'll make sure there's nothing on it before I stick it in there. I'm just gonna clean it out a little bit. Get that surface nice and clean. I'll clean this spring. Check it out. Okay, this filter says towards filter cover, outside. So it's gonna go in like that, and the spring will be on this side. Okay, that spring is nice and clean, so I'm gonna put it back in there where it goes. I need to clean off my cover real quick. And if your O-ring looks damaged on the cover, then replace it, but it shouldn't be. It should be just fine, but in case it is, go ahead and replace it. They're probably not very expensive at all. But in my case, it looks real good, so I'm not gonna replace it yet. Okay, my cover's nice and clean. I am gonna install this filter dry, but I'm gonna show you a tip to do. That way, oil builds up before we actually run this thing. So I'll show you that here in a little bit before we start it up. But I'm gonna go ahead and install it like that. And then the cover goes like that. We're gonna grab our bolts. I'm gonna get them all started. I'm gonna get one tightened, not all the way, but just tighten to where it closes up and seals. That way I can get the other ones. My hands have oil on them, I'm slipping. Okay, that one's tight now, so I'm just gonna keep the pressure with my thumb. All right, those are tightened up. I'm just doing them hand tight to where they're nice and snug. I don't even have a torque wrench that tightens that little, but I will give you the torque spec. It's in the manual right here. Alright, the oil filter cover is 7 foot-pounds, so if you do want to torque it down, you do that, but you don't really have to. Okay, because I did install that oil filter dry, what I do is I always take that spark plug cap off. I'm going to leave it to the side, and when I add the oil and everything's ready to go, I'm just going to hold the starter in and burst it for about 10 seconds. That way some oil builds up and disperses a little bit before we start it, and then I'll end up starting it up and it'll be all good from there. But now, let's see if that oil's done draining. It looks like that oil's pretty much done draining, so now all I gotta do is reinstall that drain bolt, and then I'll be able to add the oil. Okay, now I'm gonna be reinstalling my oil drain bolt. Make sure it's clean all the way, and in my case it's very clean. So now I'm gonna be able to reach up under there, get it started. I'm gonna get it all the way finger tight first. That skid plate is really awesome though. Doesn't even look like it's been used hardly. I'm gonna wipe off that skid plate, get all that old oil off of there. Alrighty, now we're pretty much ready to add the new oil. So I'm gonna go grab a funnel and my oil. Okay, the oil drain bolt torque spec is 18 foot-pounds. I do have 3 quarts here, but I do have another quart that has some left if I need more from another 4-wheeler. Alright, I do have a clean funnel here. So I'm gonna take that dipstick out, put the funnel in. Wow, it's just big enough. I'm gonna go ahead and add this oil. Get all that oil in there. All right, 1 quart down, 2 more to go. All right, 2 quarts down, 1 more to go. I'm hoping that I won't have to add any more than 3. Maybe there's some old oil left in the bottom, but if not, I guess I'll have to add some. All right, that's 3 quarts. All right, my dipstick is clean. I'll go ahead and reinstall it. There we go. Oh, my knees. Okay, with that spark plug boot off, I'm just gonna do a few cycles of the starters, get some of that oil flowing. Cool. I'm hoping that will build some pressure up and get some oil to that dry oil filter before we started it. So I'm gonna replace that boot, put it back on there, make sure it's nice and tight. You'll hear a click. But I do need to reset this maintenance light, so I gotta look at the manual of how to do that. Okay, so now I'm gonna reset the maintenance light. I think all you gotta do is hold this button, turn the key on, keep holding it, it'll flash. Okay, and it's gone. Perfect. Yep, cool. So that's off. So I do need to add some gas before I ride it anymore because it's super low. So I'm gonna add some gas, and then we'll be able to check everything, make sure there's no leaks, and then check the oil level, and then we'll be able to ride this thing again. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell on camera, but there's some sparkles in the oil, and that is why you change brake-in oil. Alright, so I'm going to run this thing for a few minutes and verify that there are no leaks. And then I'll let it sit for about 5 minutes and I'll be able to check that oil level. And then once the oil level is good, I'll be able to put these covers back on and my seat back on, and I'll be able to go rip it. Alrighty, doesn't appear that there are any leaks, which is good. I did completely forget to add gas. I got distracted by something else, but that's fine. It still has enough for now, I guess. But I'm gonna let this cool off for a few minutes, and then I'll be able to check the oil level, and then I'll be done. Okay, the manual states to insert the oil dipstick without screwing it in, then remove the oil dipstick to check the oil level. And the oil level should be in between the upper level and the lower level, and you can see down by this diagram it should be in the middle there. Okay, I installed the dipstick as far as it goes without screwing it in. I'm gonna pull it out to check the oil level, and I am perfectly in between. I'm actually up a little bit, which is fine. So absolutely perfect. I'm ready to ride this thing. Well guys, I'm gonna detail all the wires and all that plastic underneath those covers before I reinstall it. So I'm pretty much going to end the video here, guys. Thanks so much for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check me out on TikTok and Snapchat, DBA Ken. I post behind the scenes and kind of short clips and whatever I'm working on that day. And on TikTok I do kind of edits and cool clips like that. But anyway guys, I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace!